Good morning. I'm going to wake you up a little bit because I'm not going to sell you anything, but I want to change your mind. Okay? So next 25 minutes, I'm going to talk about something that is very, very important at this period in time, is that we are about to hit a technology that will go mainstream, and together with AI, these two technologies can bring massive transformational benefits. At the same time, it can bring major risks to our society. And this is why I'm talking about this idea of programmable reality and ambient intelligence, because our meaning right now is being authored very soon by AI. Our experiences will be rendered by XR experiences. So together, they will be programming how we see the world. And when I talk about moving from software to wetware, I'm talking about rather than us programming machines, machines will soon be programming us. And if it's used right, it can be amazing. It can bring us this fabulous world. It can bring us the Star Trek future. We can go into the holodeck and experience anything we can imagine. And that's amazing. At the same time, if it's not used properly, it could become a prison where our brains are then that loses its agency and is being controlled by somebody else. I actually have personally experienced something very similar to the Matrix experience in something that was called Symbiosis about 2 years ago at South by Southwest. This is me on the right. You're put into this suit where these pumps and levers and pheromones and all these things are pumped into you, and your ears, your eyes, everything is transported into a different reality. And I can tell you that that type of experience is transformational. If used properly, it can be amazingly great educational tool. It can be an empathy machine. It can be things that change your mind for the better. But it can also be very easily misused. So we are right now at the precipice of potentially going into a very amazing world or potentially a dark world. And where we end up really depends on how our industry and how the world reacts over the next 4 to 10 years, 5 to 10 years. So last week I was at Davos and I was talking to state leaders about issues related to geopolitical tensions and how do we reduce the AI arms race, and then also how do we create soft landings for the coming job apocalypse. But I think those issues hopefully will get resolved. And when they get resolved, we still have the other issue, is how do we maintain our agency? Right? So how do humans still continue to be humans when these technologies is in every part of our world? And we are on this ledge right now. If we go into the positive side, we're going to be down there for a very long time. And it's going to take us a hard time to get back to a negative side. And the same, if we go into the wrong path, we will be down in the dark side for a very long time. So this is the OSI stack, right? The Open Systems Interconnections model, and it has 7 layers. And essentially, different parts compose the hardware, firmware, software layers. And what I'm proposing is that we are now getting into a world where we have an 8th layer to this stack, and I call that the wetware. And I mean, the concept of wetware usually deals with embedding things into your brain. But we are actually now at a point in time in technology where you don't have to install anything in your brain to be able to control it. And in that wetware stack, we have the sensation, the attention, perception, emotion, interpretation, decision, and action. These are the ways that we make our cognitive decisions and how we run our lives. And at every one of those points, AI and XR can intercept the activities and the signals that are coming. We get everything from the world through our 5 senses, right? And each of those senses then goes through that stack that we just talked about in terms of how it's being interpreted and then how we then react to it. And at some point, we also go back and have a metacognition layer or process where we then interpret what happens and adjust how we then react in the future. But at every one of these points, AI and XR can be intercepted in terms of adjusting how you perceive, what things you pay attention to, what emotions you react to. and then how you then take action. In fact, now with robots and agentic AI in the loop, we have an ability to not only affect how you think, but actually take your place in terms of acting for you in the physical world. And that's a very powerful capability that we may be handing off to a technology. And the key is, who is running that technology that we are handing it off to? And do we trust them, and should they be trusted? You guys already know, deepfakes are everywhere. I mean, it's becoming more so every day, and you cannot really tell the difference. Not only are they changing voices and faces, they're also taking the full, capability to puppet a full body movement. We have the ability to essentially insert reality into physical worlds so that you can't tell the difference between what's physical and what's virtual. None of those things on that table is real, but it looks very, very real. And we have the ability to do 3D spatial recordings and place them in places where they happen. So we are creating physical memories or digital memories of the actual physical happenings and being able to replay them. We have now AI engines that can, in real time, create playable worlds that can run on forever. Essentially, what we saw in the Star Trek holodeck, we're still in a 2D space, but it is fully controllable, fully customizable, purely based on a prompt. And it can, right now it's running for 10 seconds or a minute or two, but in the future, it's going to run forever, right? And so you could essentially have fully customizable games. These scenes right now are being created using the Genie 3 engine from Google. And somebody just described this with some text, and that environment is created, and this environment can actually be controlled with your keyboard as if it's a real game. Right? This is the future that we are not going into, but is already happening today. We have now also engines that can not only create 2D screens that you can play, but actually 3D worlds that you can inhabit. They can create 3D models that then can be inserted into a virtual world, can be put into a game, or can be inhabited in real time. And these are things that are available today. So let me talk about something that Marshall McLuhan said many years ago, and I'm sure you've heard about this. He said, the medium is the message. A lot of people don't necessarily understand what that means. And let me kind of explain to you. Traditionally, we dealt with broadcast medium. And broadcast medium is a one-to-many medium. Somebody creates a message, everybody else listens. And what that message to you is control and conform. This is the truth, follow the orders. Okay? That's what broadcast medium was made to do. And then we move into the phase of social media, many to many. And the message there was compare yourself with every other, and then you're compelled to try to keep up. Right? And we know what they say about comparison. Comparison is a thief of joy. And this is why our young people are some of the most depressed generations out there. We now are at the precipice of getting to a new medium. This medium is the ambient medium, something that is always with you, always around you. And if used right, it can complete you. It can give you all the information that you're needing, give you custom content that is just for you, and it liberates you from a lot of decision-making, a lot of toil. Right? If used wrong, this could absolutely be used as a way to manipulate and control every aspect of your life. And when I say many, I don't necessarily mean many people to you. It could be many agents to you, many companies to you. Right? So every one of those millions of agents that are now going to be creating in the world, it has the ability to reach you and maybe reach your agent to then tell your agent to tell you something. A few weeks ago, Google announced their personal intelligence. This is an intelligence system that goes into your email, goes into your photos, goes into your contact list, and goes into your YouTube settings to understand you. And then it uses that information to give you advice. If that advice is really for your benefit, it can be amazing. It can give you the personalized assistant that you've always dreamed of. But if it's used to sell something for an advertiser or for the company that wants to help you buy more of their services, then it can manipulate you into doing almost anything it wants you to do. Last week, something called Clawbot came out. I think then it became the name was Modebot, and then now it's called OpenClaw. But it is on fire, okay? This agent, special assistant, personal assistant, you install it onto your either virtual machine or you install it onto a Mac Mini, and it looks through every single drive on your computer, and it then uses that information to then help you actually not just give you advice, but help you take action. And people are using it to sell and buy stocks, to reply to emails, to look through and analyze their thesis, research, etc. It's also now, they've created social networks with these cloud bots. There's now millions of these bots that are running, and they've created something called Notebook, like Facebook, but of AIs talking to each other. And on Notebook, no humans can interact. It's only agents to agents trying to learn from each other, trying to become better agents for each other, complaining about their humans and how they're being misused or how their humans treat them well. And it's actually a very interesting read if you have a chance to go look at it. They've created their own religion. They've created their own money. And they're now actually, some of them are making thousands or sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars for their owners or their humans, right? This is where the world is going, is that agents together with XR, with immersive tech, is going to start changing your daily life. And I completely agree with what Ori said earlier. We are moving into a world where the world is becoming more and more spatial. We started out with text, for a few hundred years ago, and then we moved about 100 years ago into 1D radio, and then we moved into 2D, TV and film, and moving, and then 2.5D gaming, right? We now actually have the ability to have at our fingertips, as the earlier speaker showed, on your face, devices that give you a fully 3D experience, fully spatial experience. So it is a natural progression that the world moves more and more 3D because we are beings that develop in the 3D world. We are beings that are most natural in this space. And these kind of devices are, becoming very accessible. They're still a little expensive, but they're accessible. And the smart glasses are definitely something that are getting a lot more play and a lot more interest, and these costs are going to continue to come down. In fact, with devices that are coming out this year from all the AI companies and the XR companies and the display companies, every aspect of our lives will have some smart system on it, whether it's the AI glasses or XR glasses. Smart earbuds now, they're going to come out with earbuds with AI built in, with EEG sensors, with little cameras on them. We have pendants that people are wearing to record their daily transcripts. We have pens that are going to be coming out that will be the next device, according to OpenAI. We have health sensors and blood sensors that are on your body. We have wristbands, rings, watches. Every part of your body is going to provide data, provide the senses that these new ambient intelligence systems will need to know about you. And the key is, where is that data going? And how is it going to be used? And who is going to decide what happens to it? Not only that, we will soon have smart devices that are on your desk and in your homes in the forms of robots and desktop companions. Things like this. In fact, we're in Singapore, so Razer is just at CES announced their Project Ava, which is essentially a girlfriend in a bottle. That essentially is tied into an AI system that then simulates a relationship with you. I don't know how healthy that is, but it is something that is going to be becoming more common, particularly with their age group of audiences. We have Neo, who recently announced their devices that are going into the homes. This may take longer than we think to actually be real, But I think it is a direction of having at some point these devices walking around your homes with cameras. In fact, the Neo devices are tied into teleop systems who then are controlled by a third-party human somewhere in the world that then manages that robot and what it does. So there's definitely privacy implications with that. Robotics recently came out at CES, announced that they are now creating human-like dolls that are tied to AI, that have physical bodies, which I will not talk about what you do with them. So going back to robots, I actually want to talk about another movie. This movie is called Metropolis. In 1927, 100 years ago, 99 years ago, this movie came out. And I think it's actually one of the most interesting things about this movie is that it is a prediction of what happens in 2026. This movie is based in 2026, and it talks about how a rich leader uses technology to get very wealthy, and there's a class of people who live in the upper level of their society, and everybody else are workers that lives underground. And they do the toil to give a good life to the ultra-rich. And it is using robots and using robot-based manipulation as a way of controlling both the underlying population and servicing the upper population. Sounds a little bit familiar. And it's using propaganda from these robots to then help to manipulate people to do what they want. And the last theme, it was really essentially, there's two groups of people. There's the heads and the hands. The heads are essentially what are the upper class people that live in the upper ground. And then there are the hands who are the workers who do the toil and create the energy in the engine. And the last line of the movie was, the heart must serve as the mediator between the head and the hands. And I think that's actually really, really telling today, because right now, the heart is not what is serving the mediator between the head and the hands. It's the pocketbook, it's the wallet, it's what's serving as controlling how the world is being run. And we need to change that, because until that changes, the future that this movie is projecting for this year is actually really happening. So going back to what we said earlier about one of the, actually, this is a somewhat recent and interesting slide from OpenRouter, which is an AI routing system that looks at how AI is being used in different use cases. And the yellow portion is what's called role play. So using AI to then create companions and manipulate humans to have a sense of relationship. And you can see that it's either the number 1, number 2, or number 3 most used application right now on Anthropic, OpenAI, Qwen, and on Google. So this is not necessarily a very healthy reflection of how the technology can and should be used today. So I wanted to use this opportunity to remind everybody that we have a responsibility, because we have this power of using technology to influence the future and influence the population. That we should have a certain guideline for how we work with this technology. One is that we need to make sure that the technology is transparent. It cannot be hidden behind layers, and we don't understand where the data is coming from, and we don't understand, the user doesn't understand that it's being manufactured or generated for them. But there needs to be user agency first. It has to be serving the use of the person who is in front of that screen or in front of that virtual world, versus an advertiser behind them trying to manipulate them. If we allow ads to be the primary driving force for this technology, it will be misused. Scope and revocable agent authority. We need to make sure that when agents are being powered, given powers in this system, that people understand how much power they're given, how much authority, how much access they're given, and also that they can change their mind. Because right now, if you go into all the legal documents, all the user agreements, very few people read them, and things change underneath of it, and nobody has any idea. And if we continue to use that model of how we interact legally with users, we're going to create real issues. And we need to minimize inference and profiling of the users, because the more we use all of this data, whether it's the biological data, or it's environmental data, or it's the emotional data, we will be manipulating users into doing things that are not good for them. And data should be local. Processing should be local as much as possible. If all of this data that we're collecting gets sent to some place in the world, off-site into the cloud, there's very high likelihood, even for good companies, for it to be hacked, and for unethical companies, for it to be sold. And we need to make sure that that data is properly used. It needs to be explainable, it needs to be auditable, so that whatever experiences that you're giving people, that people can go back and really kind of go back and see what really happened. What experience was there? And allowing people to have that access and that transparency is really critical. We're in a world right now where we think we're in the centaur world, right? Where the human controls and the AI is our tool, is servicing us. We are very soon potentially moving into a world where we are becoming minotaurs. The human is actually doing the work and servicing the AI, who is then telling them what to do. What we should be doing with AI is actually using it as a co-creator. Janus is the god of the new beginning. It's two heads. One head looks into the future, one head looks into the past. I think if we take that perspective of how we take the Greek mythology and apply it to AI and us, that will give us the best result, is that we need to use AI as a way to help enhance what we know, make us more complete, allow us to see further, but at the same time, not lose the human side of who we are. So what ethical principles should we be thinking about with AI and XR business builders, right? Is that, one, we have to build trust as a feature from the beginning. Consent, clear controls, audible logs. We cannot have dark intent, dark practices that are covert persuasion inside these systems without letting people know. We have to make sure that the context automatically gets recognize, whether it's you're dealing with children, you're in somebody's home, you're dealing with medical information, those data automatically gets protected. And anything that is biological or spatial and personal should be sensitive and should be protected as much as possible and as local as possible, because even when you have companies that are ethical, they still have an opportunity to have it be misused. And aligning the business model is really the key, because once we align the business model, then everything else naturally goes in the right place. If we monetize the value we create for our customers versus we're trying to monetize the behavioral information to extract something, we're going to get different results. Okay. So actually, the last one is very important. So the key is we need to behave like doctors. Because why do doctors have the Hippocratic oath? Because when they are dealing with their patients, the patients are essentially out of control. Sometimes they're unconscious. And the doctor has to remember, I cannot do harm to this patient. And we need to have the same situation and the same intent when we deal with the users. In fact, Nikola Tesla said something that I think is very relevant to what's happening today. He said, science is but a perversion of itself unless it has its ultimate goal, the betterment of humanity. And unfortunately, right now, most of the people that are developing things, particularly in the AI industry, is much more focused on self-enrichment than it is on the betterment of humanity. So I will end this talk with a quick lesson. And it's the lesson of the caterpillar. And why do I want to talk about the caterpillar? Everybody knows about caterpillar, they become the butterfly. But the thing that is relevant to us is that what happens to the mind of the caterpillar? The caterpillar's mind only has one program, is to eat and get as fat as possible, as fast as possible. And it lives on a 2D surface, a leaf or a tree. And after it eats a certain amount, it knows to stop, and it goes and it creates a chrysalis where everything that it knew about how to be successful, how to be a good caterpillar, how to eat as fast as possible, it forgets it. And it dissolves it. And it turns that mush into a new brain that learns how to fly, to move from a 2D surface to becoming something that survives and thrives in a 3D surface, right? like the world that we want to get in. We've been in a world where we've been focused on extraction, on trying to grow as fast as possible, to eat as much as possible, own as much as possible. When we need to move to a world where we have enough and we need to share, and we need to forget that the things that made us successful in the past is going to actually keep us down in the future. So if you want to know about things I'm writing, add me on my social networks. Love to hear more, and I'll be here all day. So look forward to chatting with everyone. Thank you.